The flickering porch light of a childhood home often casts the longest, darkest shadows, and for Marama Brooks, that light didn't just illuminate the driveway of the old house in Edmond, it spotlighted 5 years of profound, cold betrayal and systemic family gaslighting that had silently forged her into the CEO she was now. The core emotional hook of this narrative is the crushing realization that the very person who called her the family failure was thriving by plagiarizing the work of the failure herself, a classic case of the Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse, where the truly competent, Marama, were consistently underestimated and abused by the less competent, Skyler. This opening scene, with its immediate emotional violence, "This is the failure of our family," sets a narrative tone of righteous vindication, a universal craving for justice against undeserved public humiliation. Marama's quiet, self-contained journey from an undervalued, working-class commuter student to the anonymous owner of the parent company, Brookline Energy Creative, is a masterclass in delayed gratification and strategic opacity. The initial discovery of the USB drive, a veritable Pandora's box tucked within her late mother's cookbook, serves as the ultimate plot device, a digital ledger of Skyler's intellectual property theft. The details of Marama's struggle, the hour-long bus commute, the 4 hours of sleep, the late payroll at her first office, the ramen dinners, are not mere biographical details. They're the crucible that hardened her resolve and professional acumen. She had to scramble, a dynamic verb meaning to move quickly and awkwardly, often to achieve a goal, for every victory, while Skyler merely coasted, to move easily without effort, often implying a reliance on past momentum or external support. The deep philosophical teaching here is about the nature of success. Is it inherited ease or earned endurance? Marama embodies the latter, adhering to the Stoic principle that you must control your effort and reaction, not the actions of others. Her refusal to engage in social media updates or family disclosures about her growing empire was not spite, but rather a profoundly wise protective measure, a strategic silence that allowed her to observe, unburdened by their skewed expectations. Her sister's failure to recognize the parent company on her paycheck, Brookline Energy Creative, illustrates the kind of willful ignorance that often accompanies unearned privilege, a form of cognitive dissonance where one only sees what confirms their existing worldview. The fact that her own company, an unwitting, unintentional or unaware, corporate entity under Marama's complete control, provided the very platform for her sister's malicious activity, introduces a darkly ironic symmetry to the narrative. The consultation with Isla, a loyal friend from her time of struggle, provides the technical validation, the smoking gun of the metadata, timestamps, and login details, transforming Marama's suspicion into absolute, unassailable, impossible to defeat or challenge proof. Isla's simple, powerful analysis, "You built an empire, and your sister's been pickpocketing it," cuts through the complex corporate structures to the primal, human truth of the betrayal. This journey connects to English learning by showcasing the advanced business vocabulary, metadata, hex codes, intellectual property, IP theft, restitution, and non-disclosure agreement, NDA, all essential terms for navigating the modern professional landscape. The universal wisdom Marama gains is the critical understanding that sometimes the greatest act of self-care is not confrontation, but the silent accumulation of irrefutable, unable to be denied or disproved, power. Question for reflection: if true success is defined by what you overcome, not what you inherit, what profound hardship in your own life is the secret source of your greatest professional strength? The sheer, staggering scope of Skyler's duplicity, deceitfulness, double-dealing, revealed through the metadata Isla procured, turns the initial familial squabble into a corporate thriller. This is not a single act of theft, but a sustained campaign of malfeasance, wrongdoing, especially by a public official or corporation, stretching back 5 years to the initial safety campaign Marama created for the small Norman rig. The depth of Skyler's chicanery, the use of trickery to achieve a political, financial, or legal purpose, is evidenced not only by the identical fonts and taglines, but by the almost comical indifference to detail, such as the unchanged kerning. The spacing between letters in a piece of text, a technical detail only a designer like Isla would notice. This small detail is a huge narrative moment, proving that laziness is often the downfall of the fraudulent. The crucial piece of stolen work, the refinery turnaround spot that Marama had spent 3 weeks perfecting, only for Skyler to air it verbatim with the bizarre addition of a laugh track, is a jarring moment of disrespect. A clear illustration of how Skyler viewed Marama's work as merely raw material to be carelessly processed. The fact that Skyler would air this work, an effort built on sourcing B-roll from 3 states and syncing the voice over to safety stats, under her own footer, produced by Skyler Brooks OKC Channel 9, with no mention of Brookline or Marama, is the ultimate act of erasure. The realization that the client had praised our team's work when Marama had been completely unaware of the airing highlights the sophisticated nature of the deceit and Beckett's initial, albeit benign, ignorance of the family dynamics at play. The preparation for the confrontation, the barbecue text with its casual, oblivious request, "Bring dessert. Beckett's coming," is the perfect dramatic setup. Marama's internal response, "I'll bring the laptop," is a wonderfully understated moment of cold-blooded resolve, communicating the depth of the impending reckoning. The universal wisdom here centers on the idiom, "The pen is mightier than the sword," demonstrating that in the modern age, intellectual property, the digital pen, is the most potent weapon. Marama didn't need to shout or physically confront. She simply needed to present the digital ledger, the ironclad evidence compiled by Isla, to initiate an organizational collapse. The 5-year timeline is important because it establishes a pattern of behavior, which is critical in legal and ethical terms, moving the situation past a mistake into a deliberate, long-term racket. Her choice to confront Skyler in front of the entire family, specifically including Beckett, Skyler's boss who was unknowingly Marama's subordinate, was a calculated act of strategic humiliation. It wasn't just about justice, it was about tearing down the false family narrative in the most public and undeniable way, ensuring that the shame was as communal as the betrayal had been. The advanced English used here includes duplicity, malfeasance, chicanery, erasure, reckoning, and the philosophical concept of strategic humiliation, all crucial for discussing complex human conflict and organizational power dynamics. Question for reflection: in what ways might your own strategic silence or quiet achievements be misunderstood by those who only value loud, immediate success, and how can you use that misunderstanding to your advantage? The climax of the narrative, the barbecue scene, is a masterfully orchestrated moment of dramatic irony and instant, unrecoverable social rupture. The entire atmosphere, Dad's grill smoke, Tina's kiss the cook apron, the red and gold balloons, is the very picture of strained domesticity, only to be utterly dismantled by a single, glowing laptop screen. The power of the evidence is conveyed not through Marama's words, but through the immediate physical and auditory reactions of the family. Forks froze midair, a cousin stopped mid-bite potato salad dangling, the clinking of silverware stopped, and even the clinking of glasses stopped. Skyler's instinctive, panicked lunge for the laptop, "Turn it off. That's private," is her final, desperate, and ultimately foolish attempt to maintain the charade. Beckett's interception and subsequent calm, professional explanation is the pivotal moment of the script. For the record, I don't run OKC Channel 9. I manage the local branch for Brookline Energy Creative. Marama owns the parent company. I report directly to her. This revelation functions as a narrative mic drop, instantly redefining every single power dynamic in the backyard. The family's delayed, stunned reactions, Tina's, "Brooklyn what? Dad's never heard of it," Tate dropping her phone, show the complete collapse of their perceived reality. They had judged Marama on her appearances as a service worker, completely oblivious, unaware, to her true status, proving the idiom, "Don't judge a book by its cover." Beckett's systematic and professional termination, intellectual property theft, plagiarism, breach of contract, effective immediately. Skyler Brooks is terminated is a model of executive de-escalation through absolute authority, devoid of personal malice. It elevates the conflict from a petty family squabble to a serious legal and corporate violation. Marama's final, simple, unchallengeable response to Skyler's protest, "I just did," is the distillation of years of silent effort and earned authority. The universal wisdom embedded here is that authority in the modern world is not determined by blood or title, but by verifiable ownership and the cold, hard logic of the organizational chart. The aftermath of the scene, with Skyler standing alone, the beer foam spreading, the meat blackening on the grill, is a vivid image of a life ruined by self-inflicted wounds. The Schadenfreude, a German loanword meaning satisfaction or pleasure felt at someone else's misfortune, that might accompany this is carefully balanced by the deeper sadness of Tate's silent observation, suggesting that the fallout will extend beyond the immediate confrontation. This paragraph uses advanced English such as dramatic irony, unrecoverable social rupture, duplicity, malice, de-escalation, oblivious, and schadenfreude to convey the complexity of the scene. The confrontation, though painful, is a necessary surgical cut, demonstrating that setting boundaries often requires an act of decisive power, especially against those who feel entitled to exploit you. Question for reflection. If your reputation were suddenly stripped down to only the verifiable facts of your work and character, not family titles or emotional appeals, would the result be liberation or ruin? The following evening introduces a new, darker layer of venality, susceptibility to bribery or corruption, and betrayal with Dad's arrival and his attempt to buy Marama's silence. His offer of $250,000, framed as inheritance from your mother's side, is a cynical attempt to exploit Marama's lingering sense of familial obligation and memory of her real mother, Linda. His attempt to dichotomize, to divide into two parts, the issue, she's family. You can't ruin her over some files, demonstrates a stunning moral blind spot, prioritizing the maintenance of a comfortable family facade over actual ethical integrity. Marama's sharp reply, "You think money fixes theft? It fixes silence," is the moral fulcrum of the entire story, establishing her refusal to compromise her hard-won professional ethics. The entry of Tate, the youngest sister, as an unwitting accomplice turned reluctant whistleblower, completely shatters Dad's attempt at a financial quid pro quo, a favor or advantage granted or expected in return for something. Tate, using her volunteer access to the charity fund's ledgers, reveals the embezzlement, theft, or misappropriation of funds placed in one's trust or belonging to one's employer that funded Skyler's condo down payment. This revelation is the catastrophic domino that topples not just Skyler's career, but Dad's moral authority and freedom. The discovery that the $250,000 check was drawn from the charity's account, funds meant for kids' scholarships, is the ultimate perversion of family values and the ethical line Marama could never cross. Her act of tearing the check into pieces is a powerful, symbolic rejection of their entire corrupt value system, a visible declaration that her integrity is not for sale. The immediate fallout is a storm of emotional manipulation and threats, a full-scale defamation campaign from Skyler and Dad. The advanced vocabulary here, pleading, unstable, jealous, sabotage, illustrates the classic rhetoric of the guilty when confronted, using projection and ad hominem, attacking the person rather than the argument, attacks. Dad's use of the charity letterhead for his threat, "Your empire built on lies. Your mom's death as an excuse," is the final, cruelest form of emotional blackmail. Marama's decision to forward everything to her lawyer, Elena Vargas, is a crucial lesson in professionalism. Never engage in personal arguments with manipulators. Let a dispassionate, legal professional handle the litigation. The process of taking legal action. The drafting of the cease and desist letter, full of legal threats like slander, libel, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, is the formal, legal closure to the personal conflict, transforming their emotional warfare into a strictly legal matter. The universal wisdom here is the importance of boundaries, not just physical or emotional ones, but professional and legal ones, and that allowing corruption to persist, even within the family, makes one complicit. The confrontation with Dad is a painful but necessary act of self-preservation, proving that protecting your peace sometimes requires the ultimate act of disconnection. Question for reflection. In a world where emotional appeal often masks unethical behavior, what is your personal equivalent of the legal cease and desist letter, the formal boundary you draw to protect your truth and work? The final paragraph chronicles the quiet, determined process of reconstruction and the lasting consequences of the family's actions, demonstrating that justice is often a long, administrative process, not a single dramatic event. Marama's physical move to Denver, overlooking the mountains, is a literal and symbolic ascent, a clear break, a noun meaning a significant separation or disconnection from the toxic gravity of Edmond. The fact that Brookline's revenue dipped only 5% before stabilizing and most clients remain loyal underscores the effectiveness of Elena Vargas's legal work and the solidity of Marama's business foundation. This provides a modern business lesson. Transparency and swift legal action are the best antidotes to a reputational smear. The denouement, the final part of a play, movie, or narrative in which the strands of the plot are drawn together and matters are explained or resolved, for the Brooks family is stark and complete. Skyler, blacklisted due to the IP theft that flags every background check, loses everything: her job, her condo, and her social standing, reduced to applying for retail work and living in an anonymous studio. Dad, convicted of embezzlement, is reduced to serving community service at the very fund he robbed, his public shame cemented by the ankle monitor and the permanent ban from charity events, a poetic justice. Tina's filing for separation and selling the Mustang symbolized the total dissolution of the false, materialistic life they had built. Tate's final, desperate, deleted texts, "I miss you," and Dad's shredded, remorseful letter are the last vestiges of a past that Marama deliberately and cleanly incinerates. The powerful, universal wisdom of this concluding chapter is that freedom is the absence of obligation to those who harm you. Marama's peace is not the result of revenge, but of release. She achieved not just professional success, but a profound personal freedom by recognizing that family isn't an obligation when it comes with a cost of self-respect and integrity. Her final thoughts articulate the enduring lessons. Skyler learned that actions echo. Dad learned that privilege has limits. The narrative concludes on a note of quiet, profound strength. Cutting ties is freedom. That's the truth I live now. And it's enough. This final sentence is the embodiment of self-sufficiency and the ultimate triumph of earned value over inherited entitlement. The journey from family failure to a successful CEO who had to fire her own sister is the ultimate lesson in self-determination and ethical fortitude, relevant to English learners as an example of advanced narrative structure, corporate and legal terminology, and the profound, transformative power of decisive action.